Hello everyone, welcome to week one. Once again, I'm Professor Mark Baines, and now we are starting our coursework for this 11-week course together. Starting with chapters 0, 1, and 2 for our first week, opening this on Sunday. Hopefully you're already looking at this on Sunday the 19th, technically opening on every Sunday. And again, remember, all work has to be completed by the 26th, the end of Sunday, but your first discussion board post must be by Wednesday. That said, points that are going to help you with being successful, not just for this week, but for future weeks, and making sure you understand some basic info. Starting with basic concept of the primary goal of exercise physiology is to assess current performance and know how to do that, how to take those measurements that are useful to us and make that important, and use that information to be able to design better programming for our athletes individually as well as a team. So we can increase performance, not just by both assessing current performance and knowing what to do for future performance, and hopefully preventing chronic problems and diseases. We don't want to overtrain our clients. We want to have them have future problems that maybe years from now we won't know that we had a negative effect on, but that's the things we need to be thinking about now, not just how they perform today, tomorrow, next week, next month, for the years to come. One of the greatest challenges I've seen numerous athletes, and actually happened with me, is that too many coaches were so concerned about the intensity of today, they didn't think about how that effect would be significant tomorrow. So many times I've seen athletes who are performing at a high level early in the season only to falter and not perform well at the end of the season when it matters most, when you're trying to compete for a championship, let alone perform at high levels and maintain high levels of confidence in your own abilities as an individual athlete, let alone as the team. So we have to take a lot more things into account than maybe we've done in the past. It's not about just beat people up to get them to get the best results. We have to be much more intelligent about what we do, and the more we have an understanding of exercise physiology, the more it's going to help us. And then that concept of strength versus power. Strength is the ability to produce force. Just because you're strong doesn't mean you can be strong at everything, because strength also has to do with movement skill. Maybe you can kick a ball really far. Maybe you can run really fast. Maybe you can lift heavy weights. Those are all aspects of strength, the ability to produce force. But each is specific to a specific activity, and specific movements are slightly variable and different, all depending on that activity. A soccer player and their skill at running in the game of soccer is going to be different than a pure track athlete running in straight ahead in linear speed, right? Likewise, basketball may have some similar movements at times with the agility aspects required compared to soccer, but things are still different in those sports. So we have to take things into account for skill-specific movement, not just strength as a whole, but we want both. Strength is the ability to produce force, right? Work is the ability to produce force over a given distance. Now, taking that into account, being strong over a given distance. Now, if we want to produce power, power is explosive output. We're talking about reducing the amount of time you perform work. So the amount of force you can produce, do that in less time over greater distances. We're talking about improvements in power. If we were talking about maximal power, we're talking about outputs for a few seconds or less, okay? If you want to talk about improving power as a whole, anytime you can do more work in less time, or if we're doing something for 60 seconds and you can only do a given amount of work and now you can do more work in 60 seconds than you used to, you've improved power to a certain extent. But be careful about calling that maximizing power, because you're not. You're improving power over a given performance work level, but not specifically maximizing power. So I want to make sure we differentiate those basic factors, okay? As we go on through the course of these 11 weeks. Calories. Calories are just measurement of heat. How much heat is required to raise 1 degree Celsius, 1 kilogram of water, 1 degree Celsius. It's just heat. Too much is placed upon the concept of calories, or calories in, calories out, which is really disturbing when any coach or dietitian or anyone working with athletes, individuals, refers to calories as a significant thing to be measuring for people. It's not a bad thing to measure, as numerous factors are. More important is nutrients. What specific nutrients are our athletes taking in between carbohydrate, protein, and fat. But also, let's get deeper than that. Let's just eat food, okay? We get way too carried away with the exact amounts of carb, protein, and fat. We gotta make sure we get adequate levels of all those things. At the end of the day, it's still food. It's still nutrients we need to be taking in. We gotta look at it at a broader level, not just looking at just numbers. We'll talk more and more about that over the course of the next several weeks. METs, or metabolic equivalents. American College of Sports Medicine and many institutes of science, National Institute of Health, have tried to break down as much as possible metabolic equivalents for recognizing how certain exercises can be certain levels of metabolic equivalencies. But that does vary from person to person. They're good ranges. They're important things to look at, whereas moderate exercise is often considered to be between like 4.5 miles per hour or less speed moving. So in other words, if you're running or jogging faster than 4.5, technically that's referred to as higher intensity output. Okay, that's generally compared to all people across all ranges. Athletically, we know that's not going to help an athlete perform at higher levels, but generally speaking, when someone refers to high intensity activity, we're talking about, roughly speaking, the high level 4 plus, almost 5 miles per hour or faster for a given length of time, whatever your time period is. So we got to make sure we understand when we're seeing things with metabolic equivalents, what they're specifically relating that to, and looking at it from a very general standpoint. All information is good information, but we want to be able to glean out the most important information for us at a given moment in time. Energy expenditure, often referred to oxygen requirements. So in other words, during steady state exercise now, there's a lot of ways we can actually test someone's energy expenditure, how much they're expending at a given level of output. That said, what should happen, a very athletic person or a person who performs at a higher level will actually give off more energy output just sitting there. They'll burn through more calories than someone who's less fit. They burn through more. They need more to keep that system going at a high rate. That's your metabolism, right? The higher the metabolism, the higher the energy expenditure, higher energy usage on a daily basis. Don't confuse that with someone having a higher metabolism necessarily being a better performer. They are different, okay? But anybody who's going to be basically a higher performer is probably going to burn through a lot more given the same activities in general. They're just going to, okay? That said, exercise efficiency, probably a much more important topic area for us to be thinking about for our athletes. At a given specific work rate or wattage, power output, or force output, exercise efficiency can be measured in steady state. Okay, and they can measure for a given speed, what muscle fibers are involved. Clearly, the person is going to have, for anything we're doing for a longer period of time, we're going to see the efficiency drop for an athlete who's not specifically a aerobic-focused athlete, a cardiovascularly trained athlete, a football player, well, not a wrestler so much, but a football player, any athlete who's going to really not be going more than a few seconds at a time with longer 30, 45 seconds or more between on a regular basis is not going to have the highest efficiency for longer duration work. And that needs to be understood. We got to know what we're measuring and if it's valuable for our particular athletes at any given juncture or moment in time. That's always a constant evaluation. There's no absolutes here. But we have to really make sure we understand the information before we decide whether it's useful or not. We're often way too quick to say something is useful or not without really understanding it. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just take any of your fellow coaches' words for it, people you've heard from in the past. Your job now is to research this stuff, to go beyond what someone else says and actually be able to find support for it before you decide if you can use it with your athletes or not, right? We often go with the people that we respect on what they say, but we're actually training somebody else. We got to make sure we take it a step further or farther for distance, further for ideas, right? To make sure we are clear about, is it valuable for us or is it not? Not is it good or bad, is it valuable for us or is it not? Okay. And of course, a very efficient person is going to use a lot more type 1 muscle fibers early on in activity for longer periods than a person who's going to be less efficient is going to start engaging the type 2A and type 2B muscle fibers much sooner. In terms of more moderate steady state activity, you're going to see a much earlier engagement of beyond type 1 muscle fibers for the person who has less efficiency. Okay, but that said, that can be measured in cycling, running / walking, or arm cycling like an arm ergometer, right? Running economy, more specific to the concept between comparing one athlete versus another economically, not just what their work expenditure is or their energy expenditure is at a given work rate, but more specifically comparing runners at different various speeds and how one person has an oxygen consumption level that's relative to or greater than another person. And what you should expect to see is a person who is more fit is going to need to take in less oxygen, use less oxygen at a given level work rate than someone who's going to be probably less conditioned or less efficient at this point, less economy of running. And that said, what things that go into that, we're talking about basically muscle fiber involvement, nervous system recognition. We're talking about your endocrine system functioning properly. Numerous factors go into both exercise efficiency, let alone running economy, right? And so in order to actually maximize all these things, we have to look at the person as a whole, not just conditioning for cardiovascular activity, which is vital and often understated. You'd think it would be overstated. I think it's actually understated by most coaches now. They talk about like the more important thing is to do high intensity intervals. That's just going to be wrong. Sorry, it's going to be wrong to say that's the way to go. Oh, ideally would be both. Would be some aerobic time and some high intensity interval time when our athletes are ready. But to say one way is superior, that's just ridiculous. okay? Can't be any more clear than that. It's much, much broader than that. We have to be much better about understanding the value of a given form or level output on a given day. It's not about one is better than another. It depends on the needs of the athlete or athletes at a given moment in time. We have to vary it according to our primary goals as well as the readiness of our athletes, right? That said, homeostasis versus steady state. Your body is constantly trying to get you back to homeostasis. Every person's body has that controlled temperature rate. You know, we often refer to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but really it's different for every person by slight degrees, and also depending upon what activity is being engaged or what stressors are being engaged. Some people's body temperature is going to vary more than others. Blood circulation, blood glucose levels are going to vary one person versus another. The most efficient person who actually is the most well-conditioned and able to handle stress. Don't confuse that with we need to give them more stress. They can handle stress better, okay? They're going to have their body return back to homeostasis quicker. That person will have their heart rate return back down faster than a person who's less conditioned. Their heart rate won't even go as high as the other person because they're more well-conditioned. They can probably perform at a higher level of output, strength-wise, possibly power-wise, certainly endurance-wise, than the person who's less efficient or less capable or conditioned at this point in time. So we got to understand that it's not about pushing harder or pushing more, it's pushing at the right levels. Those are things we're going to be examining over the course of these few weeks. Finding the right levels, not harder, not more challenging, more efficient, more effective, safest for our athletes. And there's always risk, there's always challenges no matter what we do. We want to be maximizing efficiency, maximizing effectiveness, challenging to what makes sense at a given moment in time. We're trying to not challenge homeostasis, we're trying to challenge what are you capable of handling and then returning back to homeostasis soon. That's the level we want to be at. You're doing well? Great. Challenge a little more? Are you still able to return back to homeostasis quickly? Excellent. Then we can challenge more. Not, you must challenge homeostasis. You're misunderstanding the concept. You must raise the heart rate. No, that's not what it is. You must challenge performance and make sure we can recover from that performance and return back to homeostasis as quickly and efficiently as possible. You've probably ever heard people talk about EPOC, or exercise post-oxygen consumption, as if it's a thing we're trying to reach. We want somebody breathing harder all day long. No, we don't. We want that person to be breathing not harder all day long. We want to be challenging them sufficiently during our programming, during our practice, so that when they're prepared for the game, they're not breathing so hard. Throughout the course of the day, they recover quickly. That's what we're looking for, not to over-challenge. It's a delicate balance. I know. You know it too, probably. I'm going to make sure you understand how best to challenge those concepts appropriately as these weeks go on. Steady state, anytime you're engaging in any performance level that's steady level of performance output, that should not be confused with homeostasis, which is basically your resting rate, okay, which is a steady state, yes, but a steady state of stress is a totally different thing, okay? Don't confuse steady state of stress, whatever level that stress is, whatever's going on in life, let alone exercise, with homeostasis, which is more of a resting state. Those days when you're performing at your best, when you're performing at higher levels, and all of a sudden seemingly you can't get tired, this is you or this is your athletes, you perform at higher levels than you've ever thought you could do before, often comes following sufficient rest, right? Sufficient recovery, proper training, not pushing so hard that from one day to the next you can't perform at higher levels. We have to take into account all aspects of training, all aspects of recovery to fully maximize the benefit to our athletes and maximize what we know about exercise physiology, okay? That said, final thoughts going into finishing up our week 1 and going on to weeks beyond. Remember your keys to success. Number 1, time management. It's really big with these online courses. Really any course you're trying to prepare for and ongoing each week till your term is over, right? Sunday is my recommendation. Go over the welcome video and read the chapters. Usually 2 chapters. First week's 3, but first chapter is very short, and the chapters are all quite short. Sunday, going over the welcome video and the readings, they're talking about, I'm asking you to probably spend 1.5 hours to 2 hours on Sunday. That's what I would say. Maybe more if you have it, okay? And Monday or Yikes. Tuesday, right? Go over your Learn Smarts and your research for your post. Your Learn Smarts will take about maybe 15, 30 minutes per Learn Smart activity. So you're looking at probably an hour, in most cases, hour plus maybe, most like an hour or less, all right? And then Wednesday, post the discussion board. I wouldn't try to do all your research and all your preparation on Wednesday. Try to prep a little bit over the course of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So on Wednesday, you can finalize it with your proper citations, right? 1 peer-reviewed research journal at least. Don't cite the textbook, cite the journals or research that the textbook has cited. Don't cite a website. Find out where the website got their information. Make sure it's from research journals, or don't cite it. Okay, just talk about concepts in general and find other ways of citing what you have to say and citing what you are stating as your perspective on a given concept that we talk about in discussion board posts. Okay. And then Thursday through Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, keep checking back each day to see if there's any new announcements, to keep checking back to see if there are any changes to your post, someone's added or asked you a question. Make sure you respond to everybody, not just a sentence or two. Respond to it adequately to make sure we're getting enough information between all of us. We want to help each other. We want to help each other grow here to get better as coaches, because we can all get better. I don't care what coach you're talking about in this world, world premier type, world level elite coaches, coaching Olympic athletes to many gold medals, or coaches who've had consistent championships, national titles, or world titles, all depending on what you're talking about, which sport, right? Any one of them needs to be getting better on a regular basis, or they're going to get past. Someone's going to help someone more in the long term than they will be able to do. And that's not a place we want to be leaving our athletes, is it? Right? That said, Sunday every week, I will open up on Saturday night / into Sunday morning, so you can start looking at the next week. Otherwise, I would be using that as to make sure you've properly responded to everybody for that given week, because come Monday, I'm going to grade your discussion board posts. I'll make sure you've got your Learn Smarts in to give you points for that, and move on to the next week. Call me, email me if you have questions, whether that's today or any future days in the near future. Looking forward to this course together, and enjoy it, get the most that you can out of it, and I will do the same for you.